Hey guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV over here. I watch all the reality TV, I watch all the true crime, I watch all the limited series, I watch everything that is out there on TV and anything that you guys recommend. So if you like talking about TV and you want to hear reactions to all the newest shows that are coming out and all the past shows that I'm binging, please subscribe to my channel and follow along with me. And please give me any recommendations for shows that you want me to watch in the comment section below. I've been asked a lot recently if I'm going to be covering the Housewives or if I'm waiting till the seasons get done, and the answer to that is that I am going to next week cover my feelings about the Housewives so far on Dubai and Orange County, and people have also asked me if I'm going to do coverage of Big Brother. So I'm going to do a video next week talking about what I think about Big Brother so far. I'm also going to do a Bachelorette video next week. Next week is the finale of The Bachelorette, so I will be doing a video about The Bachelorette next week as well. On this channel going forward, you might see 2 videos a day on some days over here. I might do like a Bachelorette video and then like a true crime and things like that. I've got so many true crime shows taken together at wit's end, tons of true crime that I've watched. I just watched another one last night. But I also have decided that whenever I watch a movie, I watch more TV shows than I watch movies these days, but whenever I watch a movie, I think that I want to cover it over here as well. Last night, I watched The Watchers that just came out on Max, and if you guys want to see me do a review of that, I will. I will tell you, if you're looking for a movie this weekend and you have Max, I thought it was a scary horror movie. I thought it was well done. I didn't think it was the scariest movie ever, but it's with Dakota Fanning. I thought it was pretty well done. But today I wanted to talk about Longlegs, and is Longlegs the new Silence of the Lambs? So let me explain to you how I found out about this movie. I actually didn't even know this movie was coming out. Like I said, I pay closer attention to TV shows today than I do to movies, so I don't really know what new movies are coming out or whatever until somebody tells me you've got to watch this movie. So a lot of people know that I love thrillers, and I love the Thomas Harris books that Silence of the Lambs was based on, and so I love the movie Silence of the Lambs with Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins from, you know, the 90s, and so people know that I've talked about that in videos of mine in the past, and so when Longlegs came out, people started recommending it to me, and they said they had seen it in the movie theater, and they said, you've got to go see Longlegs. It's like the new Silence of the Lambs. And I was really, really excited about it. I was like, oh my God, there's like a new movie that is very similar to Silence of the Lambs. I mean, people were kind of giving me synopses of it, and they were like, you know, there is an FBI agent that's very similar to Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs. And so I was like, I want to watch this movie. So before I get into this, let me give you a synopsis of both movies really quick in case you haven't watched these. Now, I will tell you that there will be spoilers in this movie or in this review, this reaction. I'm going to try to keep the spoilers to a minimum, but I will be giving spoilers. So if you haven't seen these movies, then I'm not going to go in and do like a full reaction response to these movies. I'm really just going to kind of compare them to, like, is Longlegs the new Silence of the Lambs? So we were coming back from Las Vegas, Nevada, and the night before I was like, I want something really, really good on the plane to watch. So I paid my $19.99 and I rented it, and I downloaded it on my iPad to watch. And so I was so excited to get on the plane the next day to watch Longlegs. So let me get in here and tell you about it. First, I want to go in and read you the synopsis of Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs came out in 1991. And it won Academy Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role for Anthony Hopkins. It won Academy Award for Best Picture, 1992. Academy Award for Best Actress in a Leading Role for Jodie Foster. And Academy Award for Best Directing by Jonathan Demme. So, had won a lot of awards, was nominated for a lot of awards. Jodie Foster stars as Clarice Starling, a top student at the FBI's training academy. Jack Crawford, played by Scott Glenn, wants Clarice to interview Dr. Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, a brilliant psychiatrist who is also a violent psychopath, serving life behind bars for various acts of murder and cannibalism. Crawford believes that Lecter may have insight into a case, and that Starling, as an attractive young woman, may be just the bait to draw him out. Now, I have not seen this movie in a while, but I still to this day remember, I mean, vividly, I can remember Jodie Foster at the beginning of the movie where she's like running through the woods at Quantico and she gets assigned to this case. I can remember the woman that the serial killer kidnaps, and like her playing, you know, the American Girl, the song as she's driving, and calling the guy Mister, and then she's down in the tunnel holding the dog, and the guy says, you know, the thing puts the lotion in the basket and all that. I remember this movie vividly. And so as I was watching Longlegs, and so many people had compared it to Silence of the Lambs, I almost said St. Elmo's Fire. Nothing like St. Elmo's Fire. As people were comparing it to Silence of the Lambs, I was like, to be honest with you, I almost kind of wish people hadn't compared it to Silence of the Lambs, because I think that I would have like gone into it differently. I don't know that I would have liked it any better or any worse. You know, I just think that I would have looked at it differently, because I was really kind of looking for the comparisons to it and to see if I thought it was better, if I thought it was worse, if I thought it was more nuanced, if I thought it was a newer version of it or whatever. There are definitely some nods to Silence of the Lambs in the movie Longlegs. So the Longlegs movie just came out in 2024. It is classified as horror crime. And this is the synopsis for it. FBI agent Lee Harker is assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes an unexpected turn. Revealing evidence of the occult, Harker discovers a personal connection to the killer and must stop him before he strikes again. And I'm looking on here, is Longlegs based on a true story? The buzzy new horror movie Longlegs starring Nicolas Cage isn't based on a true story. And it goes on and talks about the birthday murders and stuff like that. Now, I knew that Nicolas Cage was in this, and I am a huge fan of Nicolas Cage's movies. Wild at Heart is one of my favorite movies of his. Leaving Las Vegas is one of my favorite movies of Nicolas Cage's. And so I've watched tons of movies with Nicolas Cage through the years. I was really kind of surprised that he was taking on this role as a serial killer, and I kind of wanted to see what he did with it. So this movie is about this girl, and when she is like really, you don't really know if it's her or not, first of all. The difference between this movie is, number one, is that Longlegs is very artistically done. There is a lot of like quiet space to it. There's a lot of times where there's no music played. It is very like bleak surroundings. And so the whole idea of it is about this FBI agent. She's new and she gets assigned to this case. And the case is that there is a serial killer. Well, they think it's a serial killer. They don't know. There's been several incidences where a father of like a family of like 3 kids and a wife kills his whole family and then kills himself. But they think that there is a tie to all of these different cases. There's like 8 cases over 6 years, and they think they're all tied together, and they think that somebody is making the fathers do this, but they can't figure out how that's happening, right? But it constantly goes back to these flashbacks of who you think is her as a little kid, and about like her meeting this guy who calls himself, well, he doesn't really even call himself Longlegs. He says, let me pull up my long legs. I'll be honest with you, for a movie that's called Longlegs, I immediately went to like Daddy Longlegs, like the spider. There really isn't a lot of explanation in the movie for why they call him Longlegs. I mean, there's a little bit of a definition of it, but there's not much for them to call the whole movie Longlegs, other than this very first scene at the beginning, where he says something like, let me pull up my long legs. Nicolas Cage looks very, very scary in the movie. He's got like long hair. He's very similar in some ways, except for his face is very, very pale. It looks like they have like, you know, white face paint on him and things like that. He's very, very similar to the serial killer in Silence of the Lambs. And actually, there's some nods to Silence of the Lambs, because there's a part in there when, as a little girl, she's talking and she doesn't eat meat, and she's explaining why she doesn't eat meat because of how they make veal. Well, that's very similar to Clarice Starling in Silence of the Lambs, with the whole idea of the crying of the lambs before they're slaughtered. And so it goes right back to that with the lambs and veal. And I mean, there's a lot of like, there's like nods or homage to Silence of the Lambs. The difference is that this movie is a lot about like satanic rituals and Satan worshipers and things like that. I have to be honest with you. So this is where it's going to spoil some of it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, don't watch past this part. But at the very end, you find out that Nicolas Cage, who ends up taking his own life while he's being interviewed, he's a Satan worshiper, and he has done these dolls, which you don't really understand. He puts something in the brain of the dolls, which borrows something from the actual person that controls the people. There's like, it doesn't really even make sense if you want to know the truth. But then what you find out is that he has an accomplice that's working with him. I had already figured out, because there's only like 5 people in this whole movie, at that point, it either had to be her or it had to be her mother. And so I was not surprised when it came out at the very end and it was her mother, and her mother was the one that was doing all this kind of stuff. I wasn't surprised about this at all. But in all honesty, in comparing the two movies, well, first of all, to review and react to Longlegs by itself, it definitely was not worth $19.99 to watch. I was very disappointed in renting it. When I got done with it, I just kind of was like, okay. Like, I was kind of surprised, honestly, at the very end. I, like, rolled past it. I was like, is there something happens after the credits roll or something? Because it just kind of ends. And I was like, this is so bizarre. Like, it doesn't, I mean, artistically, it's beautifully done. It's very bleak. It's out, you know, in the middle of nowhere, and, you know, it's like snowy weather and stuff like that. But it really wasn't, to be honest with you. I didn't find it that scary. When I was looking at it and I wasn't surprised, like, and the thing is, Nicolas Cage, who is fantastic in it, he's really good at it. He's only probably in maybe 5 or 10 minutes of the whole movie, period, in the story. It's really about her and her having grown up in this situation and her comparing herself to other people, and, I mean, even at the end, like, Blair Underwood is in it, and he plays, like, the guy that's in charge of the case, that she is, like, her supervisor, and she gets to know, like, his wife and daughter, and I knew all along, like, they were going to be the final family that was going to happen on a certain day. Like, as soon as they introduced them, I was like, oh, they're going to be the final family. The movie is very, very predictable. Even for somebody that doesn't watch a lot of thrillers, like, I mean, I watch tons, so a lot of stuff is predictable to me, but, I mean, it's really, really predictable, and so I wasn't really that blown away with it, in all honesty. But in comparing it to Silence of the Lambs, and I think this is something that happens a lot with movies today, which I think is why people are leaning more towards TV shows. It's definitely one of the reasons why I'm leaning more towards TV shows. For example, last night, like, I watched The Watchers with Dakota Fanning, like I said, and I got done with it, and I thought, this would have made a great TV series. Like, I would have loved to have watched this over, like, 8 to 10 episodes to get to know the characters more, because you really get to know the characters. I feel like that's one of the things that's happening with movies today. You know, I look back on the movie Silence of the Lambs, and Silence of the Lambs was a great movie, and it was a very scary movie, but really what made it scary was the fear and the naivete of Jodie Foster, and also her becoming confident through the process. You know, what was really scary about the movie was Anthony Hopkins and him leading her along the way, and her trusting him, and her trusting the serial killer, or kind of seeing the back clips of the serial killer, like, dancing and talking to the girl and saying the thing puts the lotion in the basket, and him just seeing her as a thing. It's the character development that in the past made for really great movies and made for really, really scary movies, you know? When you look at, like, franchises like Halloween, the reason why Halloween is so famous is because of the characterization of Michael Myers. The reason why Friday the 13th is so famous, and I just watched the entire series last year of both of those. I'd already watched Halloween's, but I watched all of them again from one of my other channels, and I watched all the Friday the 13th, which I had never watched all of those. And what makes Friday the 13th famous is Jason Voorhees. And so when you're talking about what makes a really good movie or a really scary movie, you're talking about character depth and development. You're talking about getting to really understand that person or not understand them, or wondering about that character or that person, or what can they do, or what are they able to do, and things like that. This movie fell short on that. This movie had the ability to really dive in and deeply, I think, develop the character of the Lee Harker, I think is her name, the main character, but it really falls short of that. It's like all the characters are very, very flat. The only character that's not flat is Nicolas Cage's character, who plays Longlegs, which they don't even really explain why he's called Longlegs. And so, like, he's the only character that's not flat. But like I said, he's only, like, in 10 minutes in the movie. They don't, like, there were so many missed opportunities when he could have been, like, hiding behind a tree and stuff like that. Even, like, from a distance, they show him, like, in a car. You can't really tell it's even him in a car. So there's a lot of missed opportunities. Like, you think about Halloween, like, when Michael Myers is hiding behind a tree and Laurie Strode sees him, and then Annie looks up and he's not there anymore. I mean, they could have had so many moments like this in there where she thought that I mean, like, even, like, the jump scare moments. There was a moment where they're, like, in this barn and she finds this doll. Like, I mean, there were so many moments that could have been, like, I know it was supposed to be a slow burn, but it wasn't even a slow burn, and the characters weren't really that developed. And to be honest with you, for me, it just was meh. I mean, it was, like, literally like a 2 out of 10 to me. I just was not impressed with it at all. So I was really let down. I was really excited to watch this. So if you're comparing it to Silence of the Lambs, I would watch Silence of the Lambs again and pass on this one. Like I said, I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought it had the ability to be so much more, and it just just really fell short. So if you've seen it, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.